To replace the output shaft seals, begin by removing the cover. Leave the O-rings on the output shaft while you remove the cover. This ensures that the double-sided lip seal that's installed in the cover does not snag on the O-ring grooves. Rocking the plate as you slide it off the shaft may help it move over the O-rings easier. We can now remove the large O-ring that seals the outer portion of the cap to the body. Now we will remove the retaining cap cover on the opposite side of the nozzle. Again, this is held in place with 4 fasteners. These fasteners have lock washers on them and thus require no Loctite when it comes time for reinstallation. The cap can now be removed. It covers the output shaft retainer nut. This too has an O-ring which seals this cap to the body. With both caps and their respective O-rings removed, we can remove the output shaft. We'll first remove the output shaft retainer nut. This nut holds the internal shaft bearing and the shaft itself in compression. To remove it, place a punch in the hole in the output shaft. Now, while holding the shaft stationary with the punch, remove the nut, turning it counterclockwise. With the retainer nut removed, the shaft will simply slide out. The output shaft retainer nut serves 2 purposes. There's a bearing on the opposite side of the nozzle. The nut holds the shaft in place and preloads this bearing by means of this wave spring. It also holds a plug that is installed in the output shaft, which blocks this end of the communication hole. To remove the high pressure seals, begin by laying the nozzle on its back. Now, we'll remove the retainer ring by using a small pick and getting it started at the end. You can now walk the ring out by moving the pick underneath it in a counterclockwise direction. Now locate the bolt that came in the toolkit that shipped with your nozzle. It will thread into the support ring, which will enable you to pull it and the support ring out. With these out of the way, you can now remove the high pressure seal. This seal is universal and can be installed in either direction. The O-ring on the support ring seals the OD of the high pressure seal to the hub. Next to come out is the cage, which keeps the 2 high pressure seals in place while allowing water to enter the output shaft. Now the second high pressure seal, followed by its backup ring. Finally, there's an O-ring that seals the OD of the second backup ring to the housing. To illustrate how this stack-up looks, we'll assemble it on the removed shaft. Here you can see the O-ring that seals the OD of the second backup ring to the housing, the backup ring, the second high pressure seal, the cage, the first high pressure seal, and then the support ring with its O-ring. You can see that this support ring and this backup ring are what hold the required tolerances on the output shaft. Because of this, we recommend changing these 2 components every 3rd time you change the high pressure seals. The shaft has a coating on it which provides added protection. If you need to clean or polish the shaft, use a 1200 grit emery cloth. You can see that the helical gear is bolted onto the shaft. If you should ever need to replace either the gear or the shaft, simply remove the panhead screws and separate the 2. The 2 output shaft bearings fit very loosely so that the replacement of the high pressure seals can be done without having to press them on or off the shaft. Once you've determined what components need to be replaced, we can reassemble the nozzle. Beginning with the O-ring, make sure that the O-ring is down into the bottom corner of the bore. Next is the backup ring. You can see that there's a chamfer on one side of it. That needs to rest against the O-ring. Install it, and again, make sure that it is down tight against the O-ring. Next is a high pressure seal. As previously noted, the seal can be installed in either direction, but inspect both the ID edges of the seal and install the side that is in the best condition against the backup ring. Now install the cage. Then the second high pressure seal. Again, inspect the ID corners and install the one in the best condition up or towards the support ring. Now, we will reinstall the support ring by placing it back onto the bolt, lubricating the O-ring with a bit of grease, and pushing it back into the bore. The final step is to reinstall the retainer ring. To do so, use the tool that came with the nozzle and install it into the bore. Now, position the retainer ring inside of the tool and use the plunger to push the ring into place. Begin by applying pressure to the outer edge of the retainer ring and work it around until you get it about 3/4 of the way down the bore. You can then push it down and let it come out the bottom and into its groove. Use a small screwdriver to ensure that the ring is fully installed into the groove. We will now reinstall the output shaft. We need to place one bearing on the shaft and then simply slide the shaft into the housing. Next, we'll reinstall the other bearing on the opposite side of the shaft. The wave spring has a break in one spot, and this should be installed such that it sits against the retainer nut. Now, reinstall the output shaft retainer nut along with the wave spring. The wave spring sits in a counterbore in the nut and can be held in place with a small amount of grease if necessary. Use a punch to hold the shaft in place while you torque the output shaft retainer nut to 15 foot-pounds. Reinstall the O-ring using a bit of grease if necessary to hold it in place. Then, install the cap. These fasteners have a lock washer, so they require no Loctite, but you should ensure that there is anti-seize present on the threads. Torque these fasteners to 10 foot-pounds. On the opposite side, once again reinstall the O-ring. Make sure that the O-rings are present on the shaft so that the lip seal in the cover is not damaged. Slide the cover into place. Apply a small amount of Loctite, install the fasteners, and torque them to 10 foot-pounds.